Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and it is that time again. I am back for another channel update monthly random topic video. Sometimes I do these a little bit more often, but yeah, we're back for another one of these because there's a few different topics that I want to chat a little bit about here today. Some good, some bad, some, we'll see. But a lot of different things I want to chat about a little bit, so we'll just get right into it here. I am recording this really early Monday morning because as of lately, my sleeping schedule has just been terrible. Like, I'll get a really good night's sleep and then I'll sleep like absolute garbage for a few days, or I will wake up obscenely early. And of course, attending the Game Accessibility Conference EU edition didn't help. Earlier last week, God, I can't believe that was less than a week, or that it was literally a week ago. But I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But yeah, so to give you an idea on how my day is starting, I literally just started this video like, 5 minutes ago and got about 3 minutes in and going, wait a minute, I didn't open OBS. So I hope that's not an indication of the day to come, but we will see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, things can only get better. But as I always start these videos, I want to thank everybody for watching the video, subscribing to the channel, for leaving comments, questions. I've gotten a few emails from people. That's been really nice to see, and it's been generally pretty positive. There's a couple negative ones here and there, but thankfully the vast majority of them um, have been positive. And I mean, it's totally fair if if you have constructive criticism, that's totally fair. But some of again, you look at any YouTube comments or any online social interaction and social media, what have you. It can turn into a cesspool pretty quickly. So thankfully, again, I want to thank everybody for your support, and it is very much appreciated. For those new to the channel, I do unlock videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. I do divide also everything into playlists, so hopefully you'll find something that you like. Check out the playlists tab. A few different areas that I cover. I cover low vision spotlights. Those are mainstream games that I play with my remaining vision, so I can use my vision to play those visually primarily. There are accessible game spotlight videos. Those are games PC, iOS, console, a few different accessible game spotlights like like I said, Xbox, PS5, PC, mobile. Those are games that anyone can play, no matter what level of vision that you have. So even somebody who is totally blind can play the games in those playlists. So if you're looking for something that is really accessible to blind gamers, check out those playlists. I have my podcast presentations and interviews playlist, and that is where I have done one or two interviews here on the channel. Not really my specialty, but I've done a couple. But I've also guest hosted on a lot of podcasts or a few videos here and there. And if they are on YouTube, I try to put them in that playlist. I've also done some public speaking at places like the Game Accessibility Conference, a couple of panels so far. I've presented to our local Independent Game Association chapter, IGDA, on accessibility. I did a presentation back in 2017 at ID24 about virtual reality accessibility. And sadly, not much has changed since then. So, yes, that presentation is like 8 years old. Good God. But it is largely still relevant today because we really haven't seen much of any progress in the way of commercially available accessibility for blind and low vision in VR. There's been a few interesting like research lab prototypes and things, but unfortunately, nothing you and I can get our hands on yet, which is really discouraging, really frustrating because Again, I have some VR playlists where I cover VR apps and games and experiences. And when VR works, it is amazing. Like games are fun, but I'm just as enthralled with, educational or just, more entertainment style content. Just kick back and watch some, VR movie or documentary. There's so much potential there. And I mean, VR is not dead by any means, but it's not near the thing that it was, even let's say 5, 6 years ago. Then we went through that horrible NFT phase. Thankfully, that is largely dying a painful death, at least in my circles. And now AI is the thing, which, definitely has its ups and downs, but I see a lot of promise, a lot of potential in AI. So there's that. Other playlists, I've got my Geek Loot Spotlight playlist. Those are just cool game and tech related videos, like swag that I have acquired over the years. I like to bring up my Optimus Prime just because that is so damn cool. Got some cool Doom stuff, some swords. Check that out. I have my Growing Up Illegally Cited playlist. I'm rather proud of that one. Would like that one to get a little bit more traffic. If you have questions on, how I got into doing what I do for my day job as an assistive technology specialist, or how I got into doing the YouTube thing, the technology and game accessibility advocacy and consulting work, all of those different types of things, I answer those questions and a lot more. I take a, a specific topic just in my past about, growing up with a vision impairment, whether that be, I talk about grade school, high school, transition age, college, employment. Um, the college and employment, I think, are especially relevant today, just because it can be so hard to get a job. I went through some hell trying to get through to become employed, and so if you are experiencing some of that for yourself, you're not alone. But hopefully some of that information can help you as you're going through those different things. Maybe don't make some of the mistakes I did, or maybe some of the things that I did may help you um, through things faster than I was able to. So there's all that kind of thing. But there's all kinds of stuff. I've got a few Let's Plays, a few Minecraft things, a few cooperative things that I used to do with Chris back in the day, a friend of mine. So again, check out the playlist. There's a lot here. Like, I can't believe I've been doing this since 2012. So it's been a fair few years. Um, as far as, current and upcoming content, as I said, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, I've got a lot of different content out here. I've got a couple of low vision spotlights games. I got a iOS accessible app that has some interesting potential, but I think needs a little bit more work in its accuracy and some of its capabilities. So EMVI, that's a recent accessible app that I took a look at. I'm curious to see how that might progress. Again, we got some classic boomer shooters. We got, just a variety of different things. So check those out. I will be doing, speaking of presentations, I will be doing another presentation this week on Tuesday. I'll be doing a presentation for the Minnesota Department of Ed again. I did one of those in February. God, if that was February already. Seems like it was just yesterday. Again, time has no meaning anymore. Sometimes it seems like it goes for, like, it stretches on for eons, and sometimes you blink and wait, that was 10 years ago? But I'm doing a presentation on Tuesday, this time not about accessible games, but they asked me to come in and talk a little bit about some AI tools, some specifically for that are designed for blind and visually impaired, but maybe, just how some general AI tools, your Chat GPT, your Google Gemini, your Copilot, uh, stuff that's built into iOS, how those can be helpful, even to someone who is blind or visually impaired. So if all goes well, I'm going to try and record that again because they gave me permission. We did a little test run last week just to make sure everything should go well. It should. I know we had a little bit of trouble with some of the games in the last presentation because apparently Zoom doesn't like to share like if I'm sharing the full desktop, it doesn't like to share when I do like a full screen game. Um, it can do Windows and browsers and things like that, desktop just fine, but it seems like, yeah, apparently um, Zoom doesn't like to do full screen games. So at least I was recording that, and people can watch that archive under the podcast presentations and interviews playlist. But yeah, assuming all goes well, hopefully that'll be Wednesday's video. I may have another bonus video out for you guys because I think the unofficial, kind of informal embargo is later this week, and we're going to take a look at another bite-sized shooter. So we're going to take a look at that. This one's pretty fun. I've really been enjoying what I played so far of it, so I definitely want to finish that one off soon too. But probably a bonus video for then. And then, who knows? Got plenty of games that have either come out, that are in my Steam backlog, in, that are coming out soon. I'm recording this early Monday morning, so theoretically, maybe we could be moments away. We could be a few short hours away from this worst kept secret kind of ever. And of course, I'm talking about the Elder Scrolls Oblivion remake, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remaster, remake, whatever you want to call it. Where I've seen some box art, I've seen some comparison screenshots, a tiny bit of video footage. Seems like there was last night literally just like some kind of almost like a trailer for it. So I mean, it's inevitable if it doesn't come out today. I want it to come out just because it's, people talking about it constantly. Well, it's going to come out today. No, it's going to come out tomorrow. No, it's going to come out next Thursday. And so I just want it to come out so that it'll be out and people can shut up about it. But also, as you will probably know if you've been watching the channel for a while, I do like me some Elder Scrolls games. I finally did get to play. I put a video up for Oblivion on the channel a few years ago now. But when that game came out in, what was it, '06, I played the ever-living hell out of that game. My friend Chris and um, I was down in the cities here. He was back when we were roommates, he was living back there, and we'd literally get on Skype and we'd be playing our own adventures and just talking through what was going on and just kind of bullshitting and whatever. But I must have put 200, 300 hours into that damn game. And I'm trying to remember if I beat the actual campaign. I know I went through a lot of the guild stuff. And I know I did a lot of quests. I explored a lot of the caves and caverns and stuff, but I I don't know if I ever beat the story. I think I might have, because I'm trying to remember, like, once you beat the main story, do the Oblivion gates stop coming, or do they still appear? If they still appear, I might have beaten it. Either that or I loaded another save. I think I might have beaten the story, but the main story, honestly, is not really what you're going for. I mean, yeah, it's fine. Okay, yeah, these weird hell gates, these Oblivion gates come and they start appearing all over the world. You go in there, you collect these, I forget even what they're called, like these stones. You go through these like kind of dark dungeons and everything like that. But I mean, honestly, it's just wandering this, like back in the day, you had the Elder Scrolls games before that, Arena, Daggerfall. Morrowind was what really caught a lot of people on, and I tried Morrowind, but that was a thing where it was so much text. They really didn't do a ton of voice acting yet. And so, again, for me as a low vision user, just reading walls and walls of text for dialogue and lore just wasn't doing it for me. So I never got into Morrowind the way a lot of people did. But when Oblivion came out, like they'd had that, what was it called? Radiant AI, I think it was, where everybody had their own schedules and they did their own thing. Like I think I have a playlist that's private where, I have a few playlists on my channel that I might unlock for people, who knows, but they're like, there's one that has, some funny tech videos I remember from over the years, and like every so often I want to go back and watch them. So rather than trying to remember them or find them again, I just created a playlist and then, just link those videos there. I have another one for just memorable gaming announcements or things like that. And I found there were, I think, 3 or 4 videos on an Xbox magazine demo disc that showcased like how amazing this game was going to be. I mean, I was blown away like this. The graphics, the Radiant AI, there was just a lot of different things in there that were really cool about it. Um, so yeah, if we get this Unreal Engine 5 remaster, remake, whatever it is, as if I don't have enough shit to play, I could see myself falling pretty hard into that, especially one can only hope. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but one can only hope that if they're going this far and remastering everything, a lot of these things can come with accessibility improvements. Dare I ask for text to speech? I would love to, for all the gear and all that. But even if they had font size options or made the navigation a little better, the compass easier to see, like if they can even just do that, yeah, I'm gonna be playing a lot of frickin' Oblivion pretty soon. I have a funny feeling. So, we might be, like I said, I hope it does come out just because I'm so tired of hearing it. Like, but at the same time, it's one of those games that, hell yeah, like especially if it's optimized and plays decently, um, I'm all about it. And I'm guessing it should come to Game Pass, so I could probably just fire it up and through the Xbox app, and depending on the price of it, I might just pick it up through Steam as well because God, ooh, if I could play that baby on my Steam Deck, yeah, that would be good. But yeah, so that's coming. We have, of course, Doom: The Dark Ages coming out in the middle of May. I've been trying to see if I could weasel my way into a review code. Haven't heard anything yet, but again, Doom, my favorite game of all time, or, the original, and I've loved the series in general. I like Doom 3. I loved Doom 2016. Eternal, it had its moments. I totally respect it for what it did. But I wasn't really as much of a fan of the platforming, and just some of the acrobatic stuff was cool, but it was just kind of harder for me to see exactly where to go sometimes. And then of course the, getting dumped uh, right at the release, that didn't help either. So, uh, yeah, Eternal is probably one of my least favorite Doom games. And maybe, again, maybe when I'm able to play it again in the future down the road some point, maybe I will change my mind. But, circumstantial things and whatnot. But man, Dark Ages, it looks more grounded. That badass, what do they call it? I forget what they call it, but that spinny spike shieldy thing that you can use as like a boomerang and a shield to deflect and parry and deflect projectiles back at the enemies, and just it looks so good. It looks just really punchy, and I cannot wait to play it. They've been teasing, but haven't. Again, we're getting so close to the release that I wish they would just announce as part of their hype cycle the accessibility features that are going to be in it, because they've been teasing. Oh, I have some surprises for you guys. Because I had commented about accessibility after they had their, I think it was the Microsoft event where they showed a bit more gameplay footage, and I was like, man, I really want this to be more accessible. And somebody from id or Bethesda had replied, and they're like, oh, stay tuned. I'm like, I want to know. So we've got that, of course. Of course, we have our Summer of Gaming events. We've got the Jeff Keighley thing. IGN has announced some of their stuff. I'm sure we're going to have more Nintendo things, which I will again talk a little bit more about Nintendo here shortly. I'm trying to remember like other big releases. I know there's some RPG that's coming out this week that I'm just not into turn-based RPGs, but since it'll be on Game Pass, and depending on what people actually say about it and what accessibility might be in it, maybe I'll take a look. We'll see. Again, it's the indie games. It's all the smaller stuff that I'm really excited for too. Played some platformers, some racing games, some for, of course, boomer shooters, and there's a few channels that I follow that usually clue me into some stuff. I know Viscera Fest just hit 1.0. I think I did either a demo time or I did a early access for Viscera Fest way back, God only knows when. But yeah, I would like to check out Viscera Fest again just to see how that's progressed. Project Warlock 2, I think, should be. I don't remember if they were aiming for 3 or 4 episodes, but I think episode 3 is either out already or coming out or being updated again. I've played a lot of episode 1. Actually, I think I beat episode 1. Episode 2 I've played a tiny bit of and just never got back to it. And then episode 3, not a clue. And then there's that I can't remember what it was called. It's a really neat, like, Wolfenstein era, like a medieval game that I covered last year at some point and really liked it. That is, I think, either just came out in 1.0 or is coming out in 1.0 or is new episode or something. And I believe there's a game called Arcos, which I did a demo video for a while back. Again, this is another really old school first-person shooter that kind of has. I'm trying to remember if it was like a voxel thing, but it had like destructible environments, and it just had a really cool vibe to it. This Arcos 2, and I think that is coming out at the end of this month too. So some good boomer shooter goodness, and just lots of indie games that sort of pop out of nowhere. I've heard about a few on recent podcasts that I've been starting to check out, not shooters, but just indie games in general that have been surprisingly pretty cool. So I'll have videos for those eventually. But yeah, a lot of games coming out. And of course, WWDC. I'm really curious to see what spin Apple puts on everything this year. Because, yeah, they kind of shit the bed last year on their whole Apple Intelligence AI thing. Like, yeah, we got a little bit of it. And I have to admit, like, I have tried the writing tools thing. You open up notes or an email and there's a little button above the keyboard or wherever it is to bring up writing tools, and it's like you could literally, like, I tried it once, and you could literally just put like just a string of random thoughts of, like, hey, let me just babble a little bit about some of my background in full sentences, some phrases, whatever. And then I literally just said, hey, based on the information in this, just make it in, pretend I want to do a cover letter as if I'm applying for a job. And it took all of that and pieced it together, and it was pretty solid. And again, if you're using any of these generative AI tools, as something I'm going to cover in Tuesday's presentation, but you can't just create them and then copy and paste. Like, you have to add. They're meant as a starting point, and I think that's what a lot of people are forgetting. They're just, oh, slap something together with ChatGPT or whatever AI of choice that they want to use, and then they just throw it out into the world, which I don't like. Because if you're going to write something, I want to know that it came from you, whether that's a resume, a letter, an email, an announcement. I see another trend I hate on YouTube lately is I see a lot of these video titles, and they sound interesting, and then you go into them and, like, oh, this is just a regurgitated AI, even AI voiced garbage of, like, oh, we're just doing it for the clicks. We got a good intriguing headline, but we're just dumping out, like, what AI is telling me, and then doing it in the AI, the text to speech voice, which it's just lazy. Um, and that's seeming to be a lot more common. Even for, like, I've seen even a couple of different troubleshooting things recently where I've looked up, like, oh, how do I get this to work, or how do I fix this problem, and I'm getting the same thing of, like, this generic, almost like you're reading from a help desk script, but it was generated by AI and spoken by AI, and it's like, oh, this isn't going to go anywhere because it's just generic dribble. Um, so again, am I a fan of AI in a lot of ways? Yeah, I am, because it's done a lot of good. It's been super helpful for me and a lot of other people with disabilities in the last couple of years. But at the same time, I'm concerned about what everyone else is concerned about: privacy, security, authenticity, just ripping other people off. This generic garbage content. Like, no, it just like any tool, it's got its good and bad. Um, so moving on, I just want to talk a little bit about the Game Accessibility Conference, the European edition. That is out. It was Monday and Tuesday of this past week. And admittedly, I was there for a lot of it, but I kind of zoned out during a few presentations just because my sleeping schedule was so fucked. Like, even before that, like, I tended to wake up in the middle of the night. I'll sleep really well for 2, 3 hours, and then I will wake up in the middle of the night and maybe get up and go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, and then I'm just wide awake for literally a couple of few hours. I could wake up at like 1, 2 in the morning and not go to sleep until 5:30 again, and then I have to get up at 7:30, whatever. Um, and that might even change even more with this whole having to go back to work or into the office a couple days a week thing. So that's going to suck even worse because I'll have to get up even earlier. So I hope I can beat my body into submission. And then, so the Game Accessibility Conference, I wanted to attend live because I like being involved in the Discord chat and, just watching, just, feeling I'm a part of this event, and information as it's happening live. And again, making those connections to the other people in the chat. And so yeah, 4 o'clock came mighty early, and I was usually pretty good until about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then about the time that they were going for their lunch. is when I started having a little bit of problems, and so yeah, I zoned out through a few of them. But thankfully, again, the full days are already archived. I don't know if the individual sessions have been separated and put up on the channel yet. Actually, I think they are. I think they are. But if you just look up the GAConf or Game Accessibility Conference, not only do they have this year, but they have the last several years. I think they started archiving them, like even my presentation when I was there live in 2019 is up there. So they have most of their archived presentations there. And if you're interested in games or game accessibility, yeah, I highly recommend checking that conference out because they have sessions from gamers themselves, gamers with disabilities themselves. They have panels. They have a lot of different sessions from game developers, people in the industry, people talking about like research things, people talking about new tools that are becoming available. Ian Hamilton, he always starts out every game accessibility conference with a recap of what has been happening in the past 6 months or so, because that's now that we have the North American and Europe versions, they're about 6 months apart, and it's always fascinating to see just how much progress we are making in each one of those time periods. So yeah, there's just a lot of different stuff there. There was some stuff through Microsoft and Ubisoft and some indie games this year. There was, again, I should have recorded this video earlier if I was going to talk more about the Game Accessibility Conference. But no, there was like I remember both panels, the gamers panel and the um, the developer panels were both very interesting. I remember during the first day of the gamers panel, like they were just saying all these things. They were talking about like burnout and imposter syndrome and like what it takes to do the work that we do, and like they just kept saying stuff. I'm like, yes, yes, that's exactly. So again, just really, really good. There was some great presentations from developers and even indie developers. That's the thing. It's not all about AAA. There's a lot of indie developer representation at the conference. We even last fall we had Mr. Alan D1 do a session on the Toby Doom mod right around when version 7.5 came out. So that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, even the European sessions this spring was actually really, really informative. And I like hearing about other disabilities. It's not just about blind, low vision. That's another thing that people really have to remember. Yes, I know it's super frustrating when a new game comes out and there's subtitles and there's control remapping and there's all these other things that can accommodate other disabilities, but lo and behold, blind people are left behind or left out again. And I totally get that. It's super frustrating. Um, but there are a lot of other people that need accessibility as well. And, this is where I like to learn. Like I get to hear more about, what goes into making a game more accessible to deaf and hard of hearing players, or concerns that they have, people who, have mobility limitations or experience a lot of fatigue, that kind of a thing. I find those interesting because again, there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of like, this is designed for this disability, but it actually really helps other people in a different way, or something that even wasn't designed as necessarily an accessibility feature turns out to be really helpful. Um, so yeah, I mean, there was a really good session on what was the name of the damn it, what was the name of that game? I always forget. Why I can never remember the name. of the game. I think it's this one here. Atomfall. Yeah. I did a video on that recently, and like the text, like it was really fascinating to hear how they approached accessibility. They talked about both what they did well and what they were unable to do and why. It was just a really fascinating look into that game. But I applaud them for what they were able to accomplish. So yeah, that was a really interesting thing, and I highly recommend people check it out, especially if you have this interest in game accessibility. I definitely encourage people to check out the Game Accessibility Conference archives and attend in the future. If you can attend in person, awesome. If you can't, they've been doing it hybrid for a few years now, so you can join for free, join their sessions live, join their Discord, get your name out there. If people want to, always say that they want to be consultants or they want to help make games more accessible, well, this is how you do it. This is how you get a good way to get involved. Of course, we should probably talk a little bit about Nintendo. I talked about that during the Switch 2 stream that I looked at a few weeks ago. And I was on the fence, do I get a Switch 2? Do I want to? Do I want to wait? I'm bummed that they don't have an OLED model at launch. Are they going to milk us again and, do an OLED model 2-3 years from now? It's entirely possible. But people have been saying that even their LCD is a ton better than they used to be. So like the brightness, and you may not have as quite a crisp black levels as you do with OLED, but other than that, people say the screen looks really good. The console feels good. There's been several hands-on impressions from people lucky enough in the industry to go take a look at the Switch 2. We actually did have a Mario Kart World event this last Thursday, and it wasn't bad, but I don't think it really told us a ton of stuff that either we didn't already know or that we probably couldn't have already guessed. They did touch on a couple interesting mechanics and a few new power-ups and things. Like you have this new hop ability where you can kind of hop over power-ups if you time it right, or if you can, hop up onto a rail and grind, or you can even kind of wall ride for a short period of time. That's pretty cool. They talked about, you can do regular Grand Prix, you can do the elimination stuff, you can do open world, and I like that they touched on the open world. There's these like switch palette blocks that you have like in your Super Mario World, and you can find those and you'll trigger all kinds of different types of gameplay events in the open world. There's collectibles, there's these gas stations where you go through and you get this like food item, then they'll give you costumes based on the area that you're in and what character you have. And so, I mean, again, there's a lot of stuff that they're doing for replayability and just exploration, and you get the 24 racers on a track, which is going to be absolute mayhem with all the power-ups. Like the Hammer Brother suit is a new one. That's pretty cool, the Hammer Brother power-up. So, yeah, but I mean, it's Mario Kart. If you like Mario Kart, you're probably gonna dig this one. I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty excited about it. I've been a huge Mario Kart fan. Played some of the original Super Nintendo version. Really fell into Mario 64. Double Dash, I really didn't play as much. I thought it was going to be really cool, but it just wasn't quite my jam. But Mario Kart DS, boy, my friend and I used to play the hell out of that all the time online. Had a couple friends that would play with them. Mario Kart DS, and then of course Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe on the Switch. 96 courses in that game with all the DLC. Jeebus, that is a hell of a amount of content. But yeah, we got, and then we have the Mario, we have the Donkey Kong Bonanza. That looks actually really fun. I really like the focus on combat and the destruction in that game. It's, again, Red Faction Guerrilla, play on that word, but that looks just really fun. Metroid seems like it's going to be really cool. And of course, we got the GameCube stuff coming. And there's a lot of hubbub about the price, and then they postponed. Nintendo had postponed after I did that video. They postponed the Switch pre-orders in the United States and Canada because of our wonderfully stupid administration in Washington D.C. right now. Oh, we're going to tariff, then we're not going to tariff, then we're going to hike up the tariffs even higher, then we're going to make them worse, and then we're going to back off again, and then we're going to. I mean, that's one of probably a dozen, 2 dozen things that I can't pay attention to it on a regular basis anymore because I will either just go clinically insane or just get furious at the level of stupidity. It's like that limbo bar is getting really, really low, man. I don't know how every. I'll leave out the last part of the of the phrase, but I think of Dumb and Dumber. Just when I think you can't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. But in this case, you do not redeem yourself and you drive me, the nation, the world absolutely crazy. Yeah, just I don't know how much lower the bar can get, and the way people can still vote for this dipshit is beyond me. I mean, I don't want to get political, but my God, I've literally lost in my IRA the last couple months. I think it's gone down over 20 grand. So I'm real happy about that. Price of everything has gone up despite Tweedledingus over there saying that, oh, the prices have never been better. And look, I'm the best and I've done so much and I'm the smartest. I took cognitive tests. And no, you're a freaking idiot. Sorry, political distraction. It's hard not to go on a rant whenever you think about the world right now. But I was talking about Nintendo and, due to the tariffs and everything, how they were postponing pre-orders. Now, right after I did that video, yeah, I did. All I literally had to do was click a button, and you basically put your name in to say, hey, I'm interested in pre-ordering this. And I chose the Switch and Mario Kart bundle, so I don't have to pay the ungodly price for Mario Kart. So if I do decide to pre-order, I could try it there. They did just announce that as of the 24th of April, people will be able to start pre-ordering through retailers like your Walmarts, your Target, your Best Buy. So I don't know. I wish that Nintendo would do their pre-orders at the same time. Like they're not doing theirs until, what'd they say, at one point May 9th or something. So I'm thinking about leaning toward getting a Switch 2 more and more just because of the accessibility. Yes, I want to play Mario Kart. Yes, I want to play Donkey Kong, the inevitable Marios and things, but again, it's the Nintendo stuff. But at the same time, again, if I'm doing, all this technology and game accessibility stuff, like I really, especially this being Nintendo's first kind of foray into major accessibility, even in that video that when we looked at their webpage after watching their direct, they actually have an accessibility page and short video clips for the Switch 2 accessibility features. So at least they're starting to take it more seriously. I really hope that the text-to-speech that is in the system also supports the eShop and not just your basic level menus. Because there was that line in even that video clip, and they said, oh, text-to-speech may not be available everywhere. And as I said in that video, I hope it's not necessarily a PS4 type of scenario where you get your top level menus and then you go into, you go in a menu level or two deep and text to speech not available. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I might, I think, I don't remember if I have, I know I've ordered from like Target or Walmart before, but I don't remember if I just did an order or if I actually made an account there. So I might just see if I can log into those and suppose it would be what, Wednesday night. So it'd be like midnight. Because I think it's, I gotta look for sure. I think it's like midnight on the 4th or the 24th Eastern time. So 11 o'clock Central. I could try to see if I could get the Mario Kart bundle. I'm not gonna like fret if I don't get it or anything, but I mean, if I throw my name in there or if I go to the web page and somehow I'm able to check out, we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. Part of me does want to check it out. I haven't fully decided, but it is what it is. We'll figure it out. And then there was this thing that somebody was talking about recently. There was an article. Is Nintendo losing their identity, kind of their touch that they've been known for? Because they're usually Nintendo, they do a new system, they do some weird new zany thing, and they just do their own. They're not chasing the rest of the industry. They're doing their own sort of their own stuff. And in this time we're going from the Switch to the Switch 2. It's a more powerful Switch, a few more features, just like we went from the Nintendo to the Super Nintendo. But I argue that's not really a bad thing because, yeah, the hardware may not be super different. We've got the mouse and the mouse support and the camera nonsense, but I think Nintendo, where they still really shine, and I hope, is they add more accessibility, make their games more available to more people. No, I think like their hardware necessarily isn't all that different. And they've even lost some of their uniqueness that they had when the Switch came out because hey, that was their thing. You have a console level experience that you can take on the go. But now we have the Steam Deck, we have any number of other Windows handhelds, we have all these retro handhelds, and so they're not in the unique place they used to be anymore. But I think it's their software and their overall design that makes them still unique. That's why we play the Marios, the Zeldas, the Metroids, the Animal Crossings, any number of franchises that you could think of, F-Zero, Punch-Out. They've got so much, unique, really polished game design. They've got, they've kind of got that character to them. And usually they'll have some sort of a unique mechanic for a particular game. Again, look at the Donkey Kong game. You got this whole destructibility thing. Look at Mario Kart. They're okay. Yeah, we're gonna do an open world. We're gonna have our traditional tracks. We're gonna have all this customization or outfits. We're gonna, do whatever it is they're gonna do. But and it is refreshing because yeah, they've started doing little patches here and there, but Nintendo has not gotten to the point where they're just, microtransactioning the piss out of everything. So they're not doing loads and loads of season passes. Now again, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, yeah, they did their whole I forget even what they called it, but like their season pass sort of a thing. But that made sense because they were putting a few new tracks in, they were putting a lot of the old tracks in. You were getting a hell of a lot of content because I think they had, what was it, like 48 tracks originally. And they were literally adding again. We went up to 96 by the time that game was all said and done. So if you're still complaining about lack of content, you're obviously high, because that game has just tons of great content in that game, and it looks and plays really well. Again, people are understandably annoyed at some of the Nintendo's. They're becoming a little bit cocky and greedy, and they need to be slapped down a little bit. Thankfully, they didn't raise their price of the Switch 2 yet, but I guess all of their accessories have gone up a little bit in price. And if you don't buy the Mario Kart bundle, you're going to be paying 80 or 90 bucks for Mario Kart alone. And that, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of content, but that just seems really steep. Now, if they would have said, okay, you're going to spend 60, 70 bucks, if they would just do like what a lot of other games are doing right now and say, okay, we've got this open world, but we're going to support this game for like the next 5 years. I mean, look at how popular Mario Kart is, in the top selling list of games 8 years later. People are still buying that game. Um, and you know it's going to be popular. So if Nintendo said, okay, you can buy the game at this, but if you buy the $90 edition, you're basically going to be getting the whatever they call their expansion pass, season pass, whatever. And it's like, we're going to support this game for the next 3 to 5 years, and we're going to be releasing new characters, new tracks, new outfits, and some of that is going to be free, some of that's going to be paid DLC. But if you buy this $90 edition, you're in. You just buy it and you get everything. I don't think people would be as mad then. I think people would be more okay with that, especially with the way that Nintendo has demonstrated the way they supported Mario Kart 8. I think that would have gone over a lot better. Um, I mean, they say, oh, based on the amount of content and the replayability and the blah, blah, blah. I forget exactly how they worded it, but they had said, the whole thing about that's what makes this game worth paying 80, 90 bucks. I don't know. But, so that's kind of the Nintendo stuff. I haven't fully decided that I'm going to pre-order, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, and it just depends on how much they have in stock, how easy it is. I'm not gonna super fight for it. I'm not going to, keep refreshing the page for 2 hours trying to see if I can get in anywhere. If I try it and get in, great. If I don't, well, whatever. I still have my interest thingy from the Nintendo website. If they contact me and I have just an easy in and I can get it pre-ordered in May, then maybe I'll do that. So we'll see. But yeah, I will, see what we can do. And if I do end up getting it, I can talk more about the accessibility then. Other than that, the only other thing I really want to talk a little bit about is The Last of Us. Mainly The Last of Us Part 2, the PC release, and Season 2 of the show that just started 2 weeks ago. Or, well, we have 2 episodes out now. It's wonderful that both The Last of Us 1 and 2 are out on PC. And it's been a while since I've played through The Last of Us Part 1, but they did eventually patch it to where it was running really well, and I did beat the PC version. And I would have thought they would have learned. I would have hoped that they would have learned with the way that the original PC port ended up at launch. I did a video on The Last of Us Part 2. Actually, have I released that video yet? I don't think I have. That might, yeah, I recorded it, but I had other videos that were more time sensitive that I wanted to get out for other obligations. Yeah, I'm gonna probably try to release that video. What was there? I might do it Wednesday or Saturday at the latest. I'm thinking, so stay tuned for that. But what I will say is they've even released an update or two post launch, and I literally played The Last of Us Friday night, and it was still. So it starts out okay, it runs well, but then it seems I haven't fully figured it out. It's either, I think it's one of two things. It's either whenever you load like a new sort of checkpoint or it loads in new map data, textures and things, you get, it starts out and you might get a little 2 second hiccup. Like the game will just stutter or freeze. And then it goes to being fine. But it seems like the longer you play, those hiccups, they freeze harder and longer, and they last, yeah, I mean, I think they've lasted like anywhere between like 5 and 10 seconds on occasion, which is horrible, especially if you're in the middle of like a chase or you're in the middle of combat and you walk over some invisible like checkpoint marker thing or something and your game just goes. There's a little bit of that. I show that in the video, but I thought that was mainly just me running OBS in the background. But no. So like I said, I think it's either one of two things. I think it's either, it could be every time it's loading in new textures and they just haven't optimized that part, because their big thing is they say that they're not doing the whole compiling textures thing from the main menu like a lot of games do, but they're doing it more on the fly, but I think that's what's choking a lot of it. But because I gotta try it again, because now that I'm further in the game, and if I start the game fresh, and if it behaves itself and gets worse over time, then I want to say there's either some sort of a memory leak, or there's some sort of like it's using more CPU or GPU over time, or again, maybe it's a RAM memory leak. So they clearly, like when it runs, like in between those little hiccups and freezes, it runs fine. But having your game just stutter and literally freeze to where you think that it's crashed is really annoying, really frustrating, and especially again with season 2 of the show, I kind of want to play some Last of Us 2 again. And I thought it was really interesting because I played the game, recorded the video, and then there were a couple of updates, so I updated on Friday, made sure my video drivers were up to date, and I tried it again Friday night, and the other thing that happened was either it didn't do my save correctly, or it didn't do the auto save correctly, because I just went, oh, start the game, and I went continue. And I was to the part where, for those who have played the game, where Ellie and Dina go through the storm and they go into the building. They bring the horses into the building because of the storm, and they go into the basement or wherever it was with all the pot plants. I was there, but when I loaded up the game on Friday, I hit continue, and lo and behold, it started me after the first cutscene as I was riding the horse as Joel up to their little town's homestead. I'm like, what the hell? And I looked, and there was no other save game there, so I had to play through it all over again. So now I've gotten to the point where I'm like literally saving every 5 minutes because A, I don't know if the game is going to crash, or I don't know if the game is going to, like, autosave is going to work correctly. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep saving because I don't want to do it again. But I'm going to probably hold off a little bit, and hopefully they release another patch that might fix things a little bit better. I really don't know. I mean, I have an RTX 4070 Ti. I have a 13th gen Core i7. I have 64 gigs of RAM for Christ's sake. This game originally came out on the PlayStation 4 and played fine. It came out on the PS5 and played fine. There's no reason that a modern PC with specs that are even higher than the PS5 shouldn't annihilate this game. It's just piss poor optimization again. And it's really frustrating because the game itself is great. Like, all the accessibility features are there. It works. When it runs fine, when it runs well, it runs well. But every 3 to 5 minutes, when you get to a new thing and you're loading up and all of a sudden it just hitches like that, it's super damn frustrating. So if you wanted, if you didn't own a PS5 and you think you want to play the game, I would put it on your wish list and I would wait for a sale. I would, if they do fix it, I will let you know in a future update, or follow me on social media, Twitter or Blue Sky, when it finally works the way it's supposed to again. I will let you know, but I said right now, and I warned you guys too, like, even when the game is going to run properly, you're not going to run this on a potato. You're not going to run this on your bargain basement PC. You're going to run it, you're going to need a fairly decent gaming PC if you want to run this thing. Think about things like Mortal Kombat 1, Forza. These are games that, again, if you want to go on the PC route, you're going to need to make sure that you have at least a certain level of hardware. If you buy an Xbox, you buy a PlayStation 5, you know that the games at least are going to work. You don't have to worry about, is my hardware powerful enough? Because the games were designed for that hardware. But, PCs, you've got a lot more scalability. So if you're looking at some of these higher end games, and especially ones that are, shall we say, not so optimized, I haven't bought it yet, but I've heard pretty mixed things about the PC port of Spider-Man 2 as well, and I know that's got some accessibility features because I covered the post-launch accessibility update for the PlayStation 5 version. So it's great that Sony's bringing these things to PC, but they've really got to get their porting shit figured out, because it's bad enough they're charging so much money for all these games, especially these AAA games. But if you're going to release them, at least release them in a playable state. At least release them so that they run halfway freaking decently. Again, there's no reason. This game originally came out in 2020 on the PlayStation 4. There's no reason this shouldn't run decent on a PC that I had built in 2023. Especially I went overkill with the RAM, and it's on an SSD. So I don't freaking know. I don't know, guys. As far as the TV show so far, season 2, I really like it so far. I'm curious to see how much of it they're able to cover in season 2, because I know they're already going to split the second game into at least a couple seasons. But I will warn you. So I will say, overall, I really liked the first couple episodes so far. But I want to talk about a couple things. So if you want to watch the show and you haven't, go ahead and you can wrap up the video here. This is the last thing that I'm going to talk about. Follow me on, you give the video a like if you did. You can follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally cited, although I don't really stream there much really at all anymore. Blue Sky at illegally cited, illegallycited.com, and right here on YouTube. So, Last of Us spoilers, season 2 spoilers. Yeah, the first episode I thought they did things a little bit differently. The way that they introduced Abby and everything was a bit different. People were kind of mad about that, but again, we're not. That's the thing is we're telling a story through a what 30-hour game, 30 plus hour game versus a however you split up the seasons, maybe a 10 to 20 episode season, and you don't want to just do it one for one. Otherwise, what's the point? Just play the game. But since you don't have that interactivity that the game has, you can do other things with, hey, let's give more character development to some side characters or to some situations that were just alluded to in the game. Um, and so I thought the first episode was actually pretty good. I really didn't have a problem with that. Um, you got to see their little townstead, and you kind of got a little bit of foreboding with they had these pipes that they were trying to clear out for their the pipes through their city, and they found all this kind of growth inside when they cut open the pipes, and there was these cordyceps in there, and you just got this warning that ooh, there's something's gonna happen here. They're gonna be invaded by all these infected. And then you had the whole tension between Joel and Ellie. You had, the dance and Seth and him getting all mad about Ellie and Dina. So you establish all those characters and whatnot. But episode 2 is really what I want to talk about because, again, spoilers, you were warned. This is where the thing happens. This is where the early, basically, catalyst for the rest of the season happens. It is the episode where Joel gets murdered by Abby, and I thought they handled that really well. Um, there were a few scenes in the overall episode, both with Abby and with Ellie and Joel, that were just like the game. Like the whole running from I'm just gonna call them zombies, running from the Abby running from the zombies, and where she's squeezing through this kind of leaning over fence, and she's kind of crawling through, and they're trying to grab through the fence at her. That was really well done. Her just walking through this like graveyard of corpses as they kind of come to life and start chasing. But what I did like is I thought they expanded things really well because they actually took a lot more of a look at their little townstead and oh yeah, Abby was running from all these zombies, but basically they went to go invade their town, and it showed Tommy and his wife and all the people that are trying to defend it. It was cool. They were like throwing barrels down and then shooting them so that the gas came out, and then they would start a whole bunch of the infected on fire as they were trying to come up, and they eventually broke through because there's a big bloater that came in. And I thought it added, I've seen a couple complaints about that already. They're like, well, that took away from the Joel and Ellie thing. I don't think it did. I don't think those two stories are separate because they're all main characters. Tommy is a semi-main character, and he wasn't in a lot of the game, but when he was an impactful character in the first game, and he has a little bit to play in part of the second game. Um, and I think it fleshes out his character, a little bit more because right now, uh, the big bloater dude, he was chasing down his wife, and so he was trying to distract. He's like, "Hey, come get me!" He was shooting at it and whatnot. And then him kind of dueling that big old bloater with the flamethrower. That was a really cool scene, but just the fact that he was really trying to defend his wife, defend the person that he loved, um, how he's willing to sacrifice himself to try to save the people he loved. And that really does tie into Ellie and Joel's story, because obviously Tommy is Joel's brother. And so he doesn't know yet, because they're at the end of the episode, Dina and um, I forget the guy's name. But basically, one's got Ellie on their horse, and one is pulling Joel behind. But so Tommy doesn't know that Joel is dead yet. Ellie is just heartbroken because she didn't resolve. She was going to. They had an argument with, again, I can't remember his name. He was getting Ellie out of bed, knocking on her door, just like they did in the game. So, she was going to try to go out on patrol with Joel, but he had already left. And so she wanted to really resolve things with him. He's like, he is who he is, I'm who I am, but we're there for each other. Like, that's, nothing is going to change about that. And I think that's when she realized, but she never got to make good on that intent. And so that was interesting. And then, like I said, Tommy, he doesn't know about Joel, but when he gets back, and like I said, now Ellie's she's going to pull an Abby, because that's what starts the whole thing, is Abby went after Joel because Abby's dad was the doctor that he just murked at the end of The Last of Us 1 to save Ellie. So Abby was pissed, went for revenge, and now it's just this vicious cycle of, okay, well, now Ellie is going to go into Seattle, and that's going to start the whole Seattle thing, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the series. And then you have that whole other faction with Lev and different things. So we have all that stuff coming up, but like I said, I like what they did. They showed the town and them defending against all the infected, because I think they focused on Tommy. And then once he hears, like, how he tried to save his wife, so when he finds out that Joel is dead, that's where he'll be he'll want to be reserved about it, and he wants to stay with his family, but he understands Ellie's perspective and ultimately helps her out, at least in the game. So I'm curious how they spin that in the series. And it sucks that I have to wait. I don't like waiting 1 week per episode. Just like, give me the season. I need to binge. I need to know. But no, I think they're doing a good job so far. It doesn't have to be, as long as they don't butcher it, as long as they don't do something completely stupid with it. I would expect it to be slightly different than the game. I'm curious to see how they expand other locations and characters. They did a bit of that in the first game, or in the first season, and even did the episode that was the Riley story. What the hell was that called? But you know what I mean. They did that expansion as part of the first game, show how Ellie got infected. Whew. So yeah, still a lot to talk about. Hope you guys found the video helpful. I gave you my contact info already, but I'll just quickly restate it here. You can follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, Blue Sky at Illegally Cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.